need for this commission has never been more clear than it was last week when the ineffectual senator from Virginia, a man named Tim Kaine, stated that the notion our rights come from our Creator is, quote, extremely troubling to him. Very troubling, isn't it troubling? Isn't that terrible, though? How he would say something like that and advocated really by a totalitarian regime. This is what they say. But as everyone in this room understands, it is tyrants who are denying our rights and the rights that come from God. And it's this Declaration of Independence that proclaims we're endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The senator from Virginia should be ashamed of himself for many things.
President Trump this morning, Washington, D.C., taking it to him. I got to tell you, the guy never stops brawling. He is the champion bare-knuckled political brawler in the history of American politics. Yeah, there he tells these terrible truths that the Democrats want nothing to do with because it had ruined their whole thing. A religious gathering, a Christian gathering today in Washington, the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., and President Trump taking it to him. Hey, these Democrats, they're out there like Tim Kaine. Hey, we don't, our rights come from the state, and the state can take our rights away. And that's the left. The left is here. They call themselves the Democrat Party. But they're really not Democratic at all, are they? No, they're not. Not even close. So we've got too many moving parts today, as is so often the case, mostly because of the Democrat Party and the crazy things that they're fond of doing. We have, this week will be the anniversary of the radical Islamic jihadi terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001 on the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon in Washington or Arlington, Virginia, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, launching us into decades of war because of the savagery of the murderous death cult known as radical Islam. So we've got that. Now, speaking of the death cult of radical Islam, there's a funny story that Jasmine brought to our attention today. And if you call in, you're going to speak to Jasmine. You're going to be lucky enough to speak to Jasmine, a brilliant young woman, at 888-630-9625. And here's the funny story. U.S., that is to say President Trump, considers banning Iranian diplomats from shopping at Costco. So it's not just Costco. This is the CNN headline. It's more than Costco. But the Iranians, they come in for the United Nations gatherings, and it's kind of a running joke in New York that the Iranians immediately rush to the big box stores and they buy up all kinds of stuff in bulk and bring it back to Iran because they can't get these things in Iran and they can't get them in bulk and they can't get them for good prices. The Trump administration already has denied visas for Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and his large delegation to attend a high-level UN meeting this month, the United Nations, which should be converted to condominiums. And they should have the gatherings in Geneva or someplace like that. And as nobody cares, they haven't done anything useful in decades and decades, if they've ever done anything useful. And so they've been banned. Mahmoud Abbas, radical Islamic jihadi, Palestinian, yada, yada, right? And considering ramping up restrictions on several other delegations that would severely limit their ability to travel outside of New York City. Potential travel and other restrictions could soon be imposed on the delegations from Iran, Sudan, Zimbabwe, and perhaps, surprisingly, Brazil, which has held a traditional place of honor during the high-level leaders gathering at the UN General Assembly that begins on September 22nd. Now, the people at CNN, they're going on and on, but they say the movements of Iranian diplomats are severely limited in New York. But one proposal being floated would bar them from shopping at big members-only wholesale stores like Costco and Sam's Club. They couldn't go to Costco or to Sam's Club because, they're going to go there and they're going to load up. They're going to get the giant carts. They've got chauffeur-driven SUVs outside. They load them up with stuff from Costco and stuff from Sam's Club. And now the administration is saying, well, Iranian diplomats coming in for the United Nations General Assembly, we should restrict them and say they cannot shop at Costco or at Sam's Club without first receiving the express written permission of the State Department. You thought I was going to say the NFL, the express written permission from the NFL, but it's the State Department. Hey, State Department, I'd like to shop at Sam's Club. So you may not shop at Sam's Club, sir. I'm sorry. And take that silly hat off. That's a very silly headdress, and you should shave. Have you considered showering? I wonder if Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is. I was thinking about Stinky today. I was this morning while I was getting ready. I was thinking about Ahmadinejad. Why was I thinking about Ahmadinejad? I didn't even know about this story this morning until Jasmine pointed it out. Said, have you seen this? Said they're going to restrict shopping at Costco and Sam's Club for the Iranian delegation coming to New York for the United Nations. Wow. Such stores have been a favorite for Iranian diplomats posted to and visiting New York because they're able to buy large quantities of products not available in their economically isolated country for relatively cheap prices and send them home. So it's not carry-on. They're not going carry-on. They're shipping stuff. Get like a shipping container full of stuff and ship it back home. Isn't that great? It was not immediately clear if or when the proposed shopping ban for Iran would take effect, but the memo said the State Department was also looking at drafting rules that would allow it to impose terms and conditions on members in wholesale clubs by all foreign diplomats in the U.S. That's pretty wild, I've got to say. For Brazil, it was not clear if any potential visa restrictions affect President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. They just call him Lula. Da Silva or lower-level members of the country's delegation at the UN gathering. Now, then why would you even include it in there? And besides, the Iranian thing is the most fun with Sam's Club and Costco. Can't go shopping there. That's big stuff. Big things going on there, let me tell you. Yes, sir. Isn't that wild? Also, the Democrats, you know how they love murder and everything. And this story, I really haven't gotten to this story. But man in U.S. illegally. That means an illegal alien because he's here in the U.S. illegally. An illegal alien, that means a hero of the Democrat Party. Man in U.S. illegally charged with murder after missing 19-year-old woman found dead, officials say. I would go to the officials on this one. And this is out of Hyattsville, Maryland, not far from Washington, D.C. itself. 19-year-old woman in Maryland who disappeared 2 weeks ago was found dead. And a man has been charged in her death, according to local authorities. And the just crazy, the woman, Dakara Thompson, left her father's home, said she was going to put gas in her car, but she never returned. And the next day, Thompson's family reported her missing to the Prince George's County Police Department. On Sunday, the 19-year-old's dead body was found in a grassy area off of Route 50 in Anne Arundel County. And through an investigation, detectives were able to locate surveillance video that showed Thompson approaching a black SUV vehicle, and she spoke to the driver, and then Thompson is seen getting into the black SUV. Driver drove off and drove to a home, 12,000 block of Kembridge Drive in Bowie, Maryland. And based on the evidence and surveillance obtained, the police got a search warrant, went to the home, and they found the scene suggested that Thompson had been killed in a bedroom at the home. Detectives arrested and charged 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez with first-degree murder and with second-degree murder. And here's the guy with scars all over his face like nobody's business. Looks like Tony Montana, got a major scar from his forehead all the way down to his mouth. And there he is. Detectives arrested and charged 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez with the first-degree murder. And allegedly had access to the black SUV vehicle, lives in the bedroom where the attack happened. 19-year-old cause of death has not yet been determined, but there's blood all over the place, and she's dead. She was picked up off the street, and she's 19 years old. And it turns out that the illegal alien that picked her up in the black SUV took her back to his hellhole, and she didn't make it out alive. Now, that's one story of that the Democrats are responsible for, and that's kind of a big deal. And then we've got this wild story that you've doubtless seen over the weekend. It was everywhere on social media, although social media isn't common courtesy, isn't the Democratic Party, isn't. Stabbing video fuels MAGA's crime message. This is the left-wing, Washington-based fake news outlet Axios. And note that the story is not about a young woman who is a refugee from Ukraine being stabbed to death on a local train ride coming home from work by a career criminal and Democrat, not an illegal alien in this case. Stabbing video fuels MAGA crime message. Is that really the story? Isn't that like that's a side story, a companion story? That is not the A story. It's not the B story. That is a side story. But here's the story from the left-wingers at Axios and Mark Caputo at the left-wing Axios. He types on behalf of his party, the Democrat Party, MAGA influencers are drawing repeated attention to violent attacks to elevate the issue of urban crime. You mean that finally somebody's paying attention to the tens of thousands of people that are murdered in the United States every year? And if you look at the patterns and want to reduce the numbers of murders, then you want to arrest criminals and fight crime. The Democrats immediately turn on you if you want to fight crime. And what is it, MAGA influence? Shouldn't all of the news media be reporting on this? Because it turns out none of the news media has been reporting on this. Shocking video of the fatal August 22nd knife attack on 23-year-old Irina Zarutska. Irina Zarutska, a 23-year-old woman, very lovely, blonde-haired woman, and she was working and coming from work on a light rail car on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dominated weekend conversation on Trump-friendly social media. Well, see, the terrible irony here is that the first thing that was pointed out that I saw over the weekend was that this woman, who is a 23-year-old lovely young woman, was just ruthlessly murdered on camera on a light rail car in Charlotte, North Carolina, by this career criminal with mental illness issues, meaning he's a Democrat, criminal, mentally ill Democrat. And the first thing I saw was making note of the fact that nobody in the media covered this. Not CNN, not the New York Times, not the Washington Post. You know, you may remember George Floyd was being arrested, and the Democrats burned half the country down over that because he died of cardiac failure with fentanyl and methamphetamine in his system. Now, that's because they care so deeply about human life. And now here this black guy sitting behind this woman on a light rail car just stood up, opened a pocket knife, and butchered her, stabbing her more times than they could count, murdered her. And he's a career criminal with a mental illness background. And the Democrats put him out on the street. Put him on the street again. 14 arrests. And the Democrats are responsible for this when they say they care about Ukraine, they care about refugees, they care about immigrants, until they're being slaughtered and butchered by Democrats. And this savage has now been arrested. And what does the media do? When conservatives draw attention to it, the news media, they attack conservatives and MAGA because people drew attention to this murder, this horrible murder, and the life of a refugee being extinguished so viciously, violently, mercilessly. And the Democrats, they spend all their time attacking Republicans for even bringing it up. How dare you bring it up? She's not George Floyd. Isn't that amazing? You know, the big wireless companies are pulling one over on all of us, and it's time to make the switch to consumer cellular. I made the switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I'm getting the same fast, reliable, nationwide, big wireless coverage, same towers, same transmitters, without the big wireless costs. But it's not just about saving money on my monthly bill, although that's real good. It's about not being used and abused by the big cell phone companies. Do you even know how much data you use every month? I certainly don't know how much I use. Most people over 50 use less than 8 gigs of data in a month. But the big wireless companies, they automatically shove you into an unlimited plan because you're paying for the 12-year-olds that use 10 times as much data as you use. And if you're not using all that data, then you are the one being used. I'm sorry to have to tell you. Had enough of that? Make the switch to consumer cellular. They set me up with service and a phone. It's incredibly easy to switch. You speak to an actual human being, not a robot or a touchpad, right here in the United States, not on a space platform or in, Uganda. Real human beings who are actually helpful. Only takes about 20 minutes to make the switch, and you save money and BS every month. So give them a call today and make the switch at 1-800-760-0702. That's 800-760-0702. All right, more Democrat. I have more on this story because the media, there's the murderer, and then there's the media. I want to fill you in on more of this crazy story. The Ukrainian refugee young woman, 23 years old, savagely murdered by a Democrat while riding a public train coming home from work. Irina Zarutska, her name should be said out loud. Yeah, so there's this amazing, horrible story. Irina Zarutska. Irina Zarutska, 23 years old, was born in Kiev in Ukraine. She got to the United States in 2022 with her family, escaping the Russian communist Putin invasion there with all the murders, because that's what communists do. They murder everybody. And I see that the news media refused to cover the story. She was killed. In fact, President Trump just mentioned it a little while ago. She was murdered August 22nd. It is now September 8th, and September 11th is later this week, as you probably know. But she was murdered August 22nd. President Trump made mention of it at the Bible Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. this morning. And he said nobody heard about it until yesterday. And the news media, they're very angry, like the left-wingers at Axios. Their headline is, "The gruesome video of the fatal knife attack on Irina Zarutska on a light rail car in Charlotte is drawing attention from MAGA influencers." Wait a minute. What does that have to do with anything? Drawing attention from MAGA influencers seeking to elevate the issue of violent urban crime. And the Democrats who are trying to downplay the issue of violent urban crime and tens of thousands of murders every year. And they're trying to downplay 100,000 fatal drug overdoses a year, although last year was down to more than 80,000 fatal drug overdoses. But wait a minute, that's the headline? That it's drawing attention from MAGA influencers seeking to elevate the issue of violent urban crime while the Democrats try to downplay it, and accuse mainstream media of undercovering shocking cases. Well, yeah, that's a fact. Because the fake news media is not covering. The New York Times not covering. The Washington Post not covering. CNN not covering it. See, it doesn't fit with the Democrat Party's narrative. And George Floyd apparently did. So they killed dozens of the Democrats. There were literally at least 24 people murdered during the Black Lives Matter rallies. And they say Black Lives Matter, and then they abort 40% of the black population. then 10,000 black people will be murdered this year, and there will be no mention of that, like the 19-year-old girl in Prince George's County outside of D.C., murdered by the illegal alien who scooped her up off the street, took her someplace, and butchered her in his bedroom. Gee, I wonder, and that's another illegal alien story. And the Democrats, they don't want to draw attention to that either, because they did it. Or they might as well have done it by waving in all the illegal alien Scarface criminals who are murdering women all over the country, and on and on. President Trump at the Bible Museum this morning making mention, and he said, look, nobody was paying attention to this story because it was not in any of the media. The 23-year-old Ukrainian woman massacred by this savage, career criminal, mentally ill Democrat animal that just butchered her for no reason at all, stepped up behind her and just started slashing her to death. And there's video of all of it from multiple camera angles. And one of the stories, who is at Axios, is complaining, well, the problem is there are too many cameras everywhere. Yeah, that's it. That's the problem, is that city train in this case, has a surveillance camera on it. And that, according to Axios, is the problem. And that conservative influencers, I mean, people on social media, I had not heard about this until yesterday or day before yesterday. And then we started trading things back and forth on it. President Trump made mention of it, and he said she was killed yesterday or a couple of days ago. In reality, she was killed August 22nd, but it was nowhere in the media until yesterday or day before yesterday.
I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
Well, that is fine. Again, she was murdered earlier, but it was kept a secret by the American news media. And the savage that murdered her, well known to police, 14 previous arrests, mental illness history. And the Democrats say, oh, put him out there, put him on the city trains. What's the worst thing that could happen, right? Because Democrats, and the guy's got criminal written all over him. He's a black guy. He's got a beard. He's got dreads going down to below his rib cage. He's got tattoos all over the front of his neck and his chest. You wouldn't be able to pick him out as a criminal from a crowd or anything like that. And somebody posted the story on Wikipedia about this savage murder and the video and the fact that the news media is not covering it. And the people at Wikipedia, if you go to the Wikipedia, the killing of Irina Zarutska, the first line is, other Wikipedia from Wikipedia, first line is, an editor has nominated this article for deletion. They want to delete it. They want to erase it from history. George Orwell. This is the Soviet Union. The Democrat Party is the Soviet Union living among us. It says you're welcome to participate in the deletion discussion, which will decide whether or not to retain it. And literally at Wikipedia, they're talking about deleting any mention of the woman's murder. And the story started when I saw it because no media has been covering the story. And the first comparison I made to my best girl was George Floyd. And then immediately I saw all over the internet that the George Floyd comparison was being made everywhere. The murderer is a Democrat. His allies are Democrats. And the guy's a career criminal, mentally ill, and he's loose on the streets because of Democrats. Just like the illegal alien that murdered the 19-year-old, a beautiful young woman in Prince George's County, took her off the street, and you don't want to know what happened in between then the blood-drenched walls of his bedroom at his Beephole house where the illegal alien dragged her. And it's not just about every crime. Some crimes are preventable, and the Democrats. Now, here's another story that's completely wild. And the Justice Department, I pulled the Department of Justice charging document. Murfreesboro They got that big mosque there. Murfreesboro woman charged with threat to murder United States Senator Marsha Blackburn, a woman and a Republican, of course, a senator. And Penelope R. Convertino, 22 years old, of Murfreesboro, has been charged by criminal complaint with making the threat to murder a federal official with an intent to impede, intimidate, and interfere with U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn while she was engaged in the performance of her official duties, announced acting U.S. Attorney Robert E. McGuire, the Middle District of Tennessee. So Marsha Blackburn, a great woman, a wonderful woman. She's done some great stuff the last couple of years. She, this lunatic threatened to murder her, all right? And then the murderer was arrested. Now, part 2 of the story from the Gateway Pundit. That first part was from the Justice Department statement. Obama judge releases 22-year-old transgender accused of threatening to kill Senator Marsha Blackburn. Okay. And turns out the Obama judge is the same judge that released the human trafficker, MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia from jail. Isn't that wonderful? So the hang on, because interestingly, the Justice Department document says that a woman, Penelope Convertino, has been arrested for threatening to murder. Now it turns out that Penelope is actually a dude who looks like a lady who says, I'm transgender. So U.S. Magistrate Judge Barbara Holmes, a liberal federal appointee, has granted pretrial release to 22-year-old Penelope Convertino, who is accused of threatening to assassinate U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn, the Republican senator from Tennessee. According to the Tennessee Star, the newspaper in Tennessee, Penelope Convertino, who was reportedly born male, allegedly left death threats against Senator Marsha Blackburn in a voicemail on May 30th. My name is, and I can't say the word, it begins with mother, and it ends with a word that I can't say here because of George Carlin. But, my name is Mama Jamma. I'll clean it up and say Mama Jamma. And I'm going to kill Marsha Blackburn, the voicemail said. I'm going to shoot her with a gun. I'm going to blow up her head on national TV. She will literally have brains splattered behind her because she will not be a person. She will be a dead beeping body, the voicemail says. Okay, so that's the voicemail. But it turns out that this Penelope Convertino, 22 of Murfreesboro, is a tranny, another tranny. There's an epidemic of violent tranny crimes that we've been watching, including the mass attack at the Catholic Church. Was that just last week in Minnesota? I think it was the week before in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But isn't that amazing? So that's your Democrat Party for you. And where's the coverage? Where's the George Floyd style coverage of this young woman butchered savagely by a mentally ill career criminal on a train coming home from work? There is no coverage. And then when the news media goes to cover it, when they lift a finger, they attack conservative media for mentioning it because they're trying to draw attention to the crime rate in big cities where Democrats are murdering so many people all over the place. Isn't that amazing? All over the place. Yeah, so we got another tranny, this one threatening to murder, saying he's a woman, threatening to murder a woman senator, a Republican senator. And isn't that amazing? Yeah, 22-year-old transgender arrested for threatening to kill Senator Marsha Blackburn was in the Gay, Straight, and Transgender Alliance Club at Riverdale, Tennessee High School in 2019. According to the Tennessee Star, because they're covering the story. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and you put something in Wikipedia about the Ukrainian refugee, 23 years old, savagely murdered, and Wikipedia wants to take it down. We want to ban it. Not George Floyd. Yeah, maybe Marsha Blackburn knows what a woman is. That could be very upsetting.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No, I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Okay, let's. I've got so much more to get to. I apologize. I never have enough time. I want to get to RFK and. But right now, let's go to. Let's see. What have I done now? Let's go to a telephone call. Let's go to Eduardo calling from Tampa, Florida. Eduardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, well, all these stories from New York to that Mendez guy in Maryland, and then I just saw one on Daily Mail, doctor, professor, black on white crime. I mean, what is with this racial hatred? I thought we were all like in racial harmony. I mean, after George Floyd, I guess this is like revenge for the police shootings on young black males. I don't know. This is pretty ridiculous. This is what politicians in all these blue states should be asked. Is only a certain amount of people getting killed important than others? I mean, I don't understand. It's like Sir Governor Moore is vacationing in Italy with George Clooney and Margarita boy Chris Van Hollen, protecting Virgo Garcia. But this Mendez guy, it doesn't matter to him, I guess.
You're just marveling at the Democrat Party, and it's the media and the politicians. And look, they're the left, Eduardo. They literally don't care about human life. Now, George Floyd, they pretended to care about George Floyd. Again, a sad story, a sad case. It's tragic that he died of cardiac failure while being arrested and resisting arrest and had all the fentanyl in his system and everything. He became such a hero that they burned city after city and murdered literally dozens of people during riots. And the murders were never covered. The arsons were called mostly peaceful. The news media, Eduardo, is the most corrupt institution in America. And I've been saying that for years. And the Democrat Party and the news media overwhelmingly is a part of the Democrat Party, an extension of the Democrat Party. Look, in Chicago over the weekend, there was a discussion of ICE going in to arrest illegal alien gang members, criminals, and like commit a lot more crimes beyond being in the country illegally, which is illegal. But yeah, I've got some of that coming up. And gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the RFK stuff because I'm running myself out of time with too much news again. Michael Pierce is shaking his head at me because he knows. But Eduardo, keep paying attention, man. Honestly, the truth is out there. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's been kind of a gruesome Monday because of the Democrats. And Eduardo shared with us the latest example, and this is true. This is a black-on-white murder, and a 28-year-old Democrat racist murdered a 59-year-old woman who, over the weekend, she was out walking her dog, and Harold Rashad Dabney III attacked the 59-year-old woman and murdered her. And now he's under arrest and he's been charged with murder. Now, at the same time, and that's the Daily Democrat. There's also in Virginia going on today and tomorrow. Your last chance to get out and vote in the 11th congressional district. Used to belong to Democrat Jerry Conley, who sadly died of cancer not too long ago. And the Republican running is Stuart Whitson. And I met Stuart Whitson and spent an afternoon with Stuart Whitson at a great Indian restaurant out in Virginia because my great friend Katie Gorka said, come out and meet Stuart Whitson and hang out with him. So came out and hung out with Stuart Whitson. And he is running for the Republican running for that House seat in the 11th district in Virginia. And this is about control of the House of Representatives and the future of the United States of America. But I saw him on the television this morning, as a matter of fact, Stuart Whitson. And he was in the 5 a.m. hour, right? I saw him, Stuart Whitson, in the 5 a.m. hour. And if you haven't gone out and voted in this special election, it's a special election because of the death of the Congressman, Jerry Conley. But here's Stuart Whitson this morning.
It's not even left or right, Republican, Democrat. It is really just about returning to common sense. And so that's what this election is all about. That's what this campaign is about. That's what we're going to see here tomorrow. So 24 hours from now.
Common sense. I like common sense. I wish that common sense were common, unfortunately, because really of the Democrats, let's be honest. And his opponent is a left-winger who relishes an America where child genital mutilation is normal.
One of the issues you touched on is the radical gender policy, which isn't just pushing boys into girls' sports, but it's pushing boys and men into girls' locker rooms. And so this is a big issue animating our district. My opponent believes it is a civil right for men who identify as girls to be allowed in locker rooms to watch our girls and women change. I'm on the opposite side of the issue. I think that's a civil right for women and girls, that when they go into a bathroom and it has a female label on the door, that they know they're going to be safe.
Gosh, what a crazy idea is that? The Democrats versus the Republicans. Sanity versus insanity. I didn't even get to the Boston City Councilwoman sent off. This one's a real piece of work. She's going to prison.
That's not war. That's common sense.